Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, and it is May 26, 2020, and I am the president of W3 Consulting and the managing director of W3C Web Services, our web hosting and domain service registration area. And what I wanted to do today was to have a conversation with you about things that are kind of happening in the world of web. And that's what Web and Beyond Live is all about, is me just having an opportunity to talk to you all about what's going on in digital marketing and social media, and all the other areas that I talk about all the time. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the COVID-19 business recovery and some of the topics that I've been paying attention to over the past week. Then I want to talk a little bit about Facebook Shops. Then I have two resources I wanted to share with you all of upcoming. One is a resource you can just look at, and the other is some information about an upcoming series of workshops that a colleague is putting on that I thought would be useful to you all. So what I wanted to do was first talk about the current COVID-19 business recovery and my concerns about the ongoing misunderstanding about what we're really dealing with in terms of economic disaster and the impending recovery. I mean, there is another whole pandemic situation, and I really want us all to be prepared for it. And so I've been paying a lot of attention to the various investors who are looking at the situation, the various financial institutions that are looking at the situation, and from everything that I'm reading, we are looking at this from the perspective of either what they call a U-shaped recovery or a W-shaped recovery. And the stock markets have been kind of sporadic. They've been trying to kind of backlash from all of this, and so just so you have an understanding, we're kind of looking at this from the perspective that you're going to have an area of business that is going to, in various industries, recover at different speeds. So that means the whole economy is going to really see a recovery probably in one long upward phase, which is what we call U-shaped recovery, or in terms of a W-shaped recovery, where we're going to see kind of the dip that's happened that will then have a resurgence, but then another dip and then another resurgence, just based on the fact that from the way in which I'm hearing it from epidemiologists and public health officials, that we're going to kind of see another wave, whether that happens later this summer or fall or later this fall. We're going to kind of see another wave of the virus come through the populations while we're dealing with some of these outbreaks throughout the country now. As we make our way through, it seems like we're going to have this other kind of wave of it, which means that there may be more lockdowns, there may be more shutdowns of different Main Street districts, which of course is going to impact us. So just be mindful of that. Like, as you're planning out your marketing, start thinking about the fact that we're going to have these additional points of recovery and further downturns, right? So we're going to kind of have these kinds of fits and spurts of economic activity, and your business needs to be prepared for that. So what's the marketing message that you need to have around that so that you can stay viable in business? So if you have any questions about this, I'm happy to answer those. Feel free to either leave a comment or shoot me a message through the website, and I'll be happy to be able to respond to those. One of the things that I started noting about was there are a number of cities around the country that are actually doing something I think is novel and potentially useful. That is, as their governments are opening up, they're trying to do what they can to stay viable while still being safe for their customers. And that's predominantly in the restaurant space, cafes and so on and so forth. And what some Main Street districts are doing, some of these cities are doing, is that they're shutting down certain streets where they have a high density of restaurants, and that's allowing the restaurants to then increase capacity. So most restaurants can't keep the doors open or shouldn't even reopen, because at 50%, basically taking away every other table in the restaurant to be able to create the distance between folks for respiratory droplet transmission of the virus is just basically financially unfeasible. And so they're trying to get themselves upward of the 80 to 90% range to get back to that kind of capacity in the restaurant. And one way to do that has been to open up the doors and bleed the crowds out onto the street, and therefore giving enough tables for people to be able to sit in the restaurant or be served by the restaurant out in the open. I think this is a fairly novel approach. I think this is interesting to see how this will work out and whether or not it actually impacts overall, virus transmission. I think this is going to be really important for us to be paying attention to. We just had the Memorial Day weekend, and I heard a lot of people on beaches cramming together and not paying attention to social distancing. This all needs to be kept into mind as you are planning out your marketing messaging to make sure that you're not only doing the good public health service of letting people know that this is dangerous to be out there and not practicing these social distancing parts, but that if they want to do business with you, they need to also practice proper social distancing when they come to your retail space, come to your restaurant, come to your cafe, and or even come to your service business where they may be interacting and engaging with you. We need to have this ongoing messaging that really helps to help people be safe, not only with you, but it also means that it impacts your employees, it impacts your health, and potentially the health of your employees' families and your family's health. So you need to be very conscious of this. You need to be safe and healthy to be able to run your business. And if you have people who are not paying attention to these, you're going to have to make a decision whether or not, for survival of the business, whether or not you have certain people come into your business that may not be wearing masks, who may not be taking proper precautions. You need to make those forward and progressive thoughts about progressive positions about what you really want people to be doing in your space. So I just wanted to give that kind of context because I know that there is some marketing messaging, some marketing difficulty around the idea of saying, I'm going to deny service to someone because they don't have a mask on, or those kinds of things. But you really have to think about the long-term viability of the business and then make that judgment call. And I can't make that for anyone. You're going to have to make that for yourself. But if I were in your shoes, I know that I would want to do everything in my power to be able to keep my staff safe so that the business can stay open altogether, and to make sure that everyone stays as safe and healthy as possible in interacting with the brand. Because ultimately, that person who was not practicing proper safe precautions then goes home, potentially gets sick or makes other people sick, and that actually bleeds onto your brand when someone messages in a local town or a local city where people start, people talk and they say, oh, you know what, I went to that retail store and I got it there. There must be someone there who has it. That can actually foment a lot of brand damage that is not fair to your business if you're doing the right things, but the wrong people, not the wrong people, but the people who maybe have wrong information about how to stay safe and be and have those precautionary measures in place when they're interacting with your retail space come into the business. So I just want you to know that that's an issue, and set up a protocol for being able to deal with customers as they're coming into the space, so that you can stay healthy, your staff can stay healthy, your families can stay healthy, and so can your customers. And that may mean telling certain people that they have to do certain things to be interacting with your business. Okay. From that little bit of a downer news, we're going to kind of switch gears to something maybe a little bit more positive. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, Facebook has decided to launch something called Shops. Shops is a function that will be built into your Facebook pages as well as Instagram profiles, and in essence, it will give e-commerce functionality to the Facebook page and the Instagram profiles. This is a huge change in the way in which I have always contemplated social media in terms of what you should do and where. It's somewhat centralizing e-commerce into a social media platform. While that's been happening for quite some time, this is probably the biggest shakeup in kind of the ecosystem. I'm not particularly bullish on this. I'm going to be waiting to see how this all pans out. But in essence, you'll not only have a new shopping tab in the Facebook page as well as your Instagram profiles that are enabled for business. You'll have shoppable live streams, kind of think QVC or Home Shopping Network, but in Facebook, so that people will be able to go live and in essence share their wares virtually and have people purchase in real time as you're talking about them. This, I think, is all good. I think it's a good thing to have options. I don't necessarily think that it will be for everyone. Of course, the shops, of course, are designed to allow you to be able to bring these free storefronts together. They are being powered by third-party services, though. Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, and others will be designed to turn the social network into a shopping destination. And so this is going to be interesting to see. And the functions within it are that it's free to use, but Facebook, in essence, will charge you a fee when someone uses the Facebook checkout option. That's how I understand it. I haven't quite used it long enough to see all of the various pieces in action, but I plan to do this with several clients soon and hopefully have more information once I get into the tool and start playing around with it. And of course, if you are in the tool and playing around with it, please let me know. I'm very, very curious to know people's experiences with this. Presumably, you're going to have an opportunity to be able to push advertising of the Facebook page out to, or the Instagram profile for the shoppable tab out to the Facebook and Instagram networks. I'm presuming all of the Facebook publishing network, the ad network. So you'll be able to then handle those pieces. You'll also be able to handle customer service using Messenger, Instagram, and WhatsApp messaging. So you're able to then interface and answer questions in that type of private exchange space. Facebook is also working, according to an article that I'll link to in the show notes, in the video description, is they're working on a way to set up a loyalty program. So I'm very curious about how they'll set up the loyalty program. And so you should see that functionality available now in your Facebook pages, and as well as your Instagram business profiles. They should have rolled them out already for you. And if you are seeing them and having any experience, let me know. I'm very curious. So Facebook Shops is here, and that's a pretty fascinating tool. The reason I said at the top, by the way, that this kind of changes the way in which I perceived how e-commerce should be done, as those of you who followed me for any amount of time knows that I believe that your website is where sales happen. Sales happen on your website, and now this somewhat pulls people back to Facebook Shops for having that sale experience, potentially one type of sale experience, potentially others. But remember that Facebook has the ability, but so that Facebook has the ability for you to use Shops to then push people out to an e-commerce solution where you then close out and do the checkout options. I still think that's a better experience, even though it's taking people out of Facebook. It is having people experience your brand the way that you want them to see it. And if you want to do any level of sophisticated marketing, notwithstanding this loyalty program that Facebook is trying to do, but you want to really be capturing email addresses and addresses and phone numbers for your clients so that you maintain the relationship. And I'm just a little bit concerned about having some other platform like Facebook control that kind of information exchange for and with your customers. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out. There still needs to be some information to figure those pieces out. But as it rolls out, I think more and more small businesses, just for thinking about it from making it easy, are going to say, you know what? I might as well just use Facebook Shops because I already have a Facebook presence or I already have an Instagram presence. I'm going to just set it up in here and not have to use some kind of tertiary tool to make that happen. That may be shortchanging the profitability and the viability of e-commerce for the business, and so that's why I'm a little bit tentative about someone saying, you know what, I'm just going to use Shops as opposed to using my website, where there may be a much wider audience that's finding you through Google or other kinds of social media and then purchasing from you directly on those platforms. So again, to be determined, but very, very interesting for Facebook, and kudos to them for trying to give us during this situation an opportunity for people to very quickly get an e-commerce page up to be able to take payment and sell inventory and ship it to folks or provide those services remotely this way. So very happy to see it coming. I'm curious to see how it will all pan out. Next to last, I wanted to share with you a resource a colleague of mine, Patra Frames from Strategies for Human Resources. She put together a resource called Employees New Normal, a framework for planning. And in essence, what this is an outline for how you can help structure your employee considerations as you return to work, or as they return to work and you return to work. And so this is for employers, and so if you employ people and you're planning on bringing people back to the office, this document here, and I will put a link to this in the video notes, kind of covers how you should structure the process and what you should be thinking about in terms of bringing people back into a in a physical working environment. So I just wanted to point that out to you all. And so you have that. I will put a link to that and you can check it out. And thanks to Patrick for putting that together. And then next to last is, you will note that last week's recording, we just had so many technical issues that it didn't end up getting published. I recorded it live with you all, but I didn't publish it. I just nixed it. And so I did not have a chance to share with you all the upcoming workshop that a colleague of mine, John D'Annunzio from Squirrely Digital, has put together this SMB content marketing workshop. So if you were here last week, I apologize for the repetition, but I do want to let you all know about this. And so what John D'Annunzio, he's a veteran journalist, and what he is doing is, I'm not sure why this is not working for me. There we go. So he's put together this content marketing workshop, and in essence, he is putting together cohorts of folks that are meeting Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays as these workshops are being put together, as these classes are being formed. And in essence, you'll spend your midday over the course of 5 weeks. There are 4 weeks of kind of lesson plan type stuff, and then a 5th week where you meet actually one-to-one with John to help figure out what you're trying to do in terms of your content marketing. And so if you're trying to do a blog series or a case study, writing an ebook or a video series for your marketing funnel, he's going to help you design that stuff. And so John is phenomenal, and I can't more highly recommend it. So it's $150 US to be able to join. It's all virtual, and you'll be able to meet with John in that final workshop class to be able to cover what you have done and get advice and all that kind of stuff. So I just really wanted to let you all know that this was happening. If you are interested, and if you have the budget and you're interested in being able to go out there and get that content marketing blueprint kind of put together. And so with that, hopefully you enjoyed this week's session. Thank you for joining me here for Web and Beyond Live. And if you have any questions or comments after we close out the recording, feel free to go ahead and leave a comment or a question. I'll be happy to go ahead and answer those questions in the comments. Note that today was a unique day because we had the holiday on Monday, so I was here on Tuesday. We will be back on Monday again at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and back with the normal Web and Beyond live schedule. And you can always find us by going to the w3cinc.com/web and beyond live link, and that's in the video description below. So that will always be the current place where we'll be going live. I will be testing different platforms and different structures for this as we go forward, including maybe going live on Instagram, going live on Facebook, and some other platforms, kind of testing out the road in terms of which live platform really works. I think ultimately I've probably settled here on YouTube Live, but I wanted to make sure that I did test out some of these other platforms that I know other clients are using and having some level of success with. So I just wanted to let you all know that that's happening. So with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of the week marketing on the Web and Beyond. I'm Reece Sidney Smith with W3 Consulting and W3C Web Services, and take care.